struggle for the restoration of our sovereignty did not start today. As a matter of fact, the struggle started almost as soon as the sovereignty of the ethnic nationalities was stolen by the imposition of the 1999 Constitution, which maintained a unitary government. With the end of the military regime and return to democracy, there was great hope that the country would be returned to what the people had voted for, and that existed prior to the military intervention in 1966. The hope of the country was dashed when, instead of a return to a federal governance structure with multiple self-governing and autonomous government with their own constitutions, the government was kept centralized in a federal government that kept all the power, the assets, and resources of the ethnic nationalities. Making things worse, this so-called constitution was not put to a referendum, and so was not made by the people. Deprived the citizens of their right to benefit contained in Chapter 2, made federal character unenforceable, gave the lion's share of the oil and other assets to the far north through a federal account sharing process that was exclusively weighted to favor the far north and make corruption official. Let me take you back over 2 decades of our journey. It all started when the military regime of General Abdul Salami Abubakar imposed a unitary 1999 constitution, which in turn was a wholesale rival of the 1979 constitution that was also known to be a victory charter for the Nigeria-Biafra War of 1967 to 1970. When it was made public a few weeks after inauguration of General Obasanjo as president, a better half of those in the legal profession gathered at several conferences and, without much ado, recognized the flaws, loopholes, and selfish intentions, then concluded that the constitution was not legitimate and would not lead Nigeria to any form of advancement. It was important that the mechanism or vehicle to set up a countrywide rejection of this forgery of a constitution was put in place. The journey commenced when, in 2004, the Pro-National Conference Organization, PRONACO, was established to revoke the damaged federal constitutional basis of Nigeria. PRONACO being the People's Sovereign National Conference of Ethnic Nationalities in Nigeria, convened in all ethnic nationalities, and quickly mandated its representation to go back to their people and to come up with ratified draft of how they would want to participate in the Union of Nigeria. The conference sat in plenaries across the cities of Lagos, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Jos, and Kano, then returned to Lagos for the final sitting, and in participation, conveners in the likes of Anthony Ehanoro, Wole Soyinka, Chukwu Emeka Odumego Ojukwu, and similar leaders across the territories. This resolution was an agreement derived from the composite People's Constitution as presented and defended by ethnic nationalities representation in those sequential conferences. And it is important to know that there were observers from the international community, including the US and European Union observers. In August 2006, a delegate from Castina moved the motion for adoption of the draft People's Constitution that emerged from the 29-point resolution of the conference. In furtherance of the PRONACO consensus to restore the federal basis of the Nigerian Union, in 2007, the Movement for a New Nigeria was set up as an enforcement of the consensus at the time to exclude the 12 contiguous northern states that had introduced and embraced the Sharia legal system against the secular basis for Nigeria. The Allies had insisted that democracy and Sharia system could not coexist in the same political space, hence the need for a new vehicle, the Movement for New Nigeria. On the 23rd of May 2007, MMN, through its legal counsel, filed a suit at the Federal High Court Abuja to challenge the legitimacy of the imposed 1999 Constitution, seeking the termination of the entire Constitution. At the court hearings, which had the Attorney General of the Federation representing the federal government, legal representation of the National Assembly, and others, admitted the people case which they could not defend the challenge, but insisted that the plaintiff had no locus standi. In English, the plaintiff had no status at law to bring in the case to challenge the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution. Having acknowledged that the restoration of the people's sovereignty did not need the participation or permission of government, the Joint Multi-Regional Vehicle instituted the MMN Lagos Declaration 30th of June 2011, by which the Allies partner blocks, the Lower Niger, South-South, and Southeast, the Yoruba land, and the Middle Belt publicly rejected the Caliphate-imposed 1999 Constitution, mandating regional self-determination actions which included referendum and international outrage. In furtherance to the mandate of the MMN Lagos Declaration, the people of the Lower Niger on the 27th of April 2015 held the Solemn Assembly in Port Harcourt City to wholly repudiate the 1999 Constitution. In that assembly, the 1,885 ethno-linguistic map of the Lower Niger was adopted as a geographical basis of federating. The assembly mandated the distillation of character of relationship as well as asset protection and guarantee scheme to protect the asset of the indigenous people in other blocks of Nigeria. On the mandate for international outrage of the MNN Lagos Declaration, an LNCT visited Capitol Hills, Washington, to make a case for the termination of the operation of Nigeria's 1999 Constitution at the special congressional event on Nigeria in May 2015. The team also made informal consultation for the same matter at the UN headquarters in New York in the same year. 2 years later, still in furtherance to mandate of the MNN Lagos Declaration, the Yoruba indigenous people held the Yoruba Solemn Assembly at Ibadan on the 7th of September 2017. The Assembly publicly repudiated the 1999 Constitution as the basis of the Federation of Nigeria and proclaimed the self-determination right of the Yoruba land to reclaim autonomy of Yoruba land.
Lower Niger Radio is your station for all the amazing topics on history, culture, and self-determination. We discuss ways we can solve our collective problems created for us by seen and unseen, known and unknown elements. We take you from the starting point to your destination. We promote and uphold our cultural, social, and moral values. Tune in today and listen to amazing personalities and be entertained as well. Lower Niger Radio is your voice of liberation for the peoples of Anang, Bini, Eshan, Efik, Ibibio, Ibo, Ishekiri, Ijo, Igede, Kalabari, Ubolo, Ugoja, Ugoni, Okrika, Urobo, and others. We bring you messages of hope, truth, and trust. Lower Niger Radio, your voice of liberation from slavery.
Because what you are asking, hold on one minute, is that this constitution should not be. And you expect that a total overhaul. Let me finish. You want a total overhaul of this constitution, and you liken it to the South African appetite. Okay, tell us the process to get into what you are saying, because the president also, do not forget, assumed office, or all the people you expect to do something about it, assumed office based on this document. So what is your practical step to getting this done?
South Africa in 1990 came to this bus stop where we have just arrived. The sitting government that was elected, and there was a parliament, Frederick de Klerk, he now, for the first time up to that time, accepted that the apartheid constitution could no longer be the basis of the South African society because it was imposed by a white minority to take the lands and the rights of the blacks, and that is exactly what we have here. The Ijaw lost their land and their oil and gas to Nigeria because some military president under Gowa seized it by decree. The Lagos port belongs to Lagos people. Nigeria takes more than 2 trillion naira from this port every year. But from independence to date, not one controller general of custom of Yoruba origin. And therefore, if Gani Adams now say, how did we come to this? And he pick up arms, the discussion that should be holding is one in which the government of the day will have to accept that this apartheid constitution can no longer be the basis of Nigeria. We are not anarchists. In the suit we filed in 2007 against the constitution, we asked the court to give an order that will compel them within a period of 18 months to remain in office and work out that discussion that will lead to a new constitution. That's not too much to ask for, because South Africa did it. They accepted that the apartheid constitution had to go, and they called everybody.
Now, it's relying on them to work out a new constitution.
No, they are not saying so. In that terms of reference, they say how to incorporate whatever.
No, I'm asking you how you intend to arrive at a new constitution.
How it will arrive at is that the people, those who are trapped here, before going to make a central constitution, because a federation should have a federation of many constitutions. Up to 1966, we had 5 constitutions, because each of the federating units were like countries of their own that were now coming to cooperate, like Germany and France and Portugal doing European Union. That was the kind of constitution Awolowo had to manage Western region. That was the kind of constitution Obara had to manage Eastern region. But some people woke up in 1960s, threw all of those things away, and now locked us into this unitary arrangement. So we're saying that the first step is to ask those who will come, because tomorrow morning they will now begin to announce the names of their friends who are going to meet. We are not going to pay any attention to whatever government does. The conference is already on, and steps are being taken to take a referendum from those who are working their way out of this union, because the union has collapsed. If we do not accept in good time that it has collapsed and go to sit down to discuss how we will revive it, I tell you that under the instruments available to those who are choked here, and 3.5 million people have been killed in eastern Nigeria on this same question. OD have been wiped out, Okerenkoko have been wiped out, Obakere have been wiped out. All kinds of things are going on. Just the other day, 78 students were massacred in their sleep, because some people must be in power in Nigeria. They say they will make the country ungovernable, and they are making it ungovernable to date. And we are still thinking that there's a Nigeria. That Nigeria that will include a Sharia belt in which I cannot function in Sokoto or Kano or Maiduguri. I will not be part of that Nigeria. I will rather invest all my energy in how to take out my portion. If those who are saying they are conquered us and they are going to keep us by all means for all times insist that we cannot discuss, then we'll do whatever comes within our reach to do to take our portion.
Now, let me ask you, Mr. Nadi,
yes.
if at the end of the day we are having reactions from Afenifere, for instance, we are having reactions from Ohanes and Igbo, we are having reactions from Arewa Consultative Forum,
been with all of them.
Be it speaking, saying that they do not, they will not agree for the name sovereign to be added to whatever conference. Now, let me ask you, would you say that these groups do not represent the blocks which they say they represent?
They do not speak for
and
the people.
If you do not agree with their representation, who are the people that you are talking to at this at this point about
back to 75%? Tambuwa said that all of them politicians constitute only 25%. He said it on the floor of National Assembly the day they resumed last week or so, that they constitute only 25% of the country's population. I'm here to speak on behalf of that unrepresented.
And the Arewa is not speaking for anybody.
They all have vested interests. They all have things they share with their people in government. What we're saying is that let us accept that Nigeria was not our making in 1914. Let us accept that the little discussion we had all the way to 1960 got toppled in 1966. Let us then accept that the product of that toppling, which is the current constitution, because from 1966 to date, all the 36 states that were created, who created them? Now they call me Abia State or Imo State or somebody else, Bayelsa State. None of the people in those places, like Delta State, cannot, the people of Delta in some areas were agitating for some autonomy. You now create a state and put the capital in Asaba. From that time to date, Delta State had not been the project of Ijo, Urobo, Ishekiri,
okay,
and all of
Mr.
them.
Nadi, would you not rather wait? Let's just see this process. No, because you have acknowledged that this is actually an act of statesmanship by Mr. President.
I commend him. I commend him.
At least to have you, to prove you right or wrong. Is it not a bit too early?
I was actually expecting to see your name in that list.
Of course, they know they will not put my name on any list of people who are going to be discussing, who are going to a meeting in which Nigeria is held sacrosanct, in which somebody will write in the terms of reference that the outcome of the conference will be integrated into a constitution, meaning that they want to preserve that constitution by all means. And we are saying we will not touch one alphabet from inside this constitution. So these are the two grounds, these are the two positions that will have to be married through the next few days.
But in the event that this conference is convoked,
yes,
in the event that the different nationalities meet and do discourse,
yes,
would you now throw away all of that? Because your view can be seen as extreme. It is either this, it is either all or nothing. Do you think
there is no halfway? There's no halfway in the matter of reconstruction. If you want to put a 40-story structure on this ground now, you know it will take it. But the first thing that will happen is that bulldozer has to enter here to level it, to be able to put up a new structure. Anything that is built on this foundation of falsehood, and if you let us take it down to our people, in saying that we the people, we are saying that we have submitted by ourselves. So it's a forged signature by which Nigeria is selling 3 million barrels of crude oil every day and sharing the money, $250 million every single day in Abuja, to the exclusion of the owners. If you come to the provisions inside the Constitution, you then begin to see a chapter 2 that provides for all the good things of life, but a clause in section 6C, and shame on the lawyers in Nigeria, including the justices up to the Supreme Court, that will hold this document up and say it's a constitution. Because those who wrote it had taken all of the content of the Treasury as their own by that provision, to say that nothing is for the citizen except as they deem fit. That is the unjust.
Sanadi, before we let you go on this segment, like Victor asked, and yes, it's the heart of the matter.
The thing to do is to
allow
the ethnic nationality
and have this discussion without what you are saying, and this scales through.
If somebody,
what does that
Abacha held a conference, but Obasanjo held a conference. What happened to them? Because somebody sat in Abuja, like David Mark is sitting, to tell us that it is how they do it that we have to accept. What we're saying is that they must accept that sovereignty belongs to the people and let them organize themselves and send those who they will truly wish to discuss their future for them in a conference that will end in a referendum.
Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
We have been speaking to Mr. Tony Nadi, who is the Secretary General of the Lower Niger Congress and the convener Movement for New Nigeria. Thank you once again.
The story have never changed. It's the same thing. All the cosmetic measures being applied on Nigeria to make Nigeria, to get Nigeria going, is not working, because everything that is being done by the senators, by the members of the House, or even executive branch or the judiciary, they are all skirting around the fact that the foundation is faulty. Nigeria's foundation, rooted on 1999 Constitution, is a fraud, and you don't expect this fraud to fix itself. Nigeria needs a surgical operation. That's the only thing that will work.
Ninas, where we came from, where we are, or the road to freedom. Today, we speak of Ninas, but know that the struggle for the restoration of our sovereignty did not start today. As a matter of fact, the struggle started almost as soon as the sovereignty of the ethnic nationalities was stolen by the imposition of the 1999 Constitution, which maintained a unitary government. With the end of the military regime and return to democracy, there was great hope that the country will be returned to what the people had voted for, and that existed prior to the military intervention in 1966. The hope of the country was dashed when, instead of a return to a federal governance structure with multiple self-governing and autonomous government, with their own constitutions. The government was kept centralized. In the federal government, they kept all the power, the assets, and resources of the ethnic nationalities. Making things worse, this so-called constitution was not put to a referendum, and so was not made by the people. Deprived the citizens of their right to benefit contained in Chapter 2, made federal character unenforceable, gave the lion's share of the oil and other assets to the far north through a federal account sharing process that was exclusively weighted to favor the far north and make corruption official. Let me take you back over 2 decades of our journey. It all started when the military regime of General Abdul Salami Abubakar imposed a unitary 1999 constitution, which in turn was a wholesale rival of the 1979 constitution that was also known to be a victory charter for the Nigeria-Biafra War of 1967 to 1970. When it was made public a few weeks after inauguration of General Obasanjo as president, a better half of those in the legal profession gathered itself at conference and without much ado recognized the flaws, loopholes, and selfish intentions, then concluded that the constitution was not legitimate and would not lead Nigeria to any form of advancement. It was important that the mechanism or vehicle to set up a countrywide rejection of this forgery of a constitution was put in place. The journey commenced when in 2004, the Pro-National Conference Organization, PRONACO, was established to revoke the damaged federal constitutional basis of Nigeria. PRONACO being the People's Sovereign National Conference of Ethnic Nationalities in Nigeria, convened in all ethnic nationalities, and quickly mandated its representation to go back to their people and to come up with ratified draft of how they would want to participate in the Union of Nigeria. The conference sat in plenaries across the cities of Lagos, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Jos, and Kano, then returned to Lagos for the final sitting, and in participation, conveners in the likes of Anthony Ehanoro, Wole Soyinka, Chukwu Emeka Odumego Ojukwu, and similar leaders across the territories. This resolution was an agreement derived from the composite People's Constitution as presented and defended by ethnic nationalities representation in those sequential conferences. And it is important to know that there were observers from the international community, including the US and European Union observers. In August 2006, a delegate from Castina moved the motion for adoption of the draft People's Constitution that emerged from the 29-point resolution of the conference. In furtherance of the PRONACO consensus to restore the federal basis of the Nigerian Union, in 2007, the Movement for a New Nigeria was set up as an enforcement of the consensus at the time to exclude the 12 contiguous northern states that had introduced and embraced the Sharia legal system against the secular basis for Nigeria. The Allies had insisted that democracy and Sharia system could not coexist in the same political space, hence the need for a new vehicle, the Movement for New Nigeria. On the 23rd of May 2007, MMN, through its legal counsel, filed a suit at the Federal High Court Abuja to challenge the legitimacy of the imposed 1999 Constitution, seeking the termination of the entire Constitution. At the court hearings, which had the Attorney General of the Federation representing the federal government, legal representation of the National Assembly, and others admitted the people case which they could not defend the challenge, but insisted that the plaintiff had no locus standi. In English, the plaintiff had no status at law to bring in the case to challenge the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution. Having acknowledged that the restoration of the people's sovereignty did not need the participation or permission of government. The Joint Multi-Regional Vehicle instituted the MMN Lagos Declaration 30th of June 2011, by which the Allies partner blocks, the Lower Niger, South-South and Southeast, the Yoruba land and the Middle Belt publicly rejected the Caliphate-imposed 1999 constitution, mandating regional self-determination actions which included referendum and international outrage. In furtherance to the mandate of the MMN Lagos Declaration, the people of the Lower Niger on the 27th of April 2015 held the solemn assembly in Port Harcourt City to wholly repudiate the 1999 Constitution. In that assembly, the 1,885 ethno-linguistic map of the Lower Niger was adopted as a geographical basis of federating. The assembly mandated the distillation of character of relationship as well as asset protection and guarantee scheme to protect the asset of the indigenous people in other blocks of Nigeria. On the mandate for international outrage of the MNN Lagos Declaration, an LNCT visited Capitol Hills, Washington, to make a case for the termination of the operation of Nigeria's 1999 Constitution at the special congressional event on Nigeria in May 2015. The team also made informal consultation for the same matter at the UN headquarters in New York in the same year. 2 years later, still in furtherance to mandate of the MNN Lagos Declaration, the Yoruba indigenous people held the Yoruba Solemn Assembly at Ibadan on the 7th of September 2017. The Assembly publicly repudiated the 1999 Constitution as the basis of the Federation of Nigeria and proclaimed the self-determination right of the Yoruba land to reclaim autonomy of Yoruba land.
Because what you are asking, hold on one minute, is that this constitution should not be. And you expect that a total overhaul. Let me finish. You want a total overhaul of this constitution, and you liken it to the South African appetite. Okay, tell us the process to get into what you are saying, because the president also, do not forget, assumed office, or all the people you expect to do something about it, assumed office based on this document. So what is your practical step to getting this done?
South Africa in 1990 came to this bus stop where we have just arrived. The sitting government that was elected, and there was a parliament, Frederick de Klerk, he now, for the first time up to that time, accepted that the apartheid constitution could no longer be the basis of the South African society because it was imposed by a white minority to take the lands and the rights of the blacks, and that is exactly what we have here. The Ijaw lost their land and their oil and gas to Nigeria because some military president under Gowa seized it by decree. The Lagos port belongs to Lagos people. Nigeria takes more than 2 trillion naira from this port every year. But from independence to date, not one controller general of custom of Yoruba origin. And therefore, if Gani Adams now says, how did we come to this? And he pick up arms, the discussion that should be holding is one in which the government of the day will have to accept that this apartheid constitution can no longer be the basis of Nigeria. We are not anarchists. In the suit we filed in 2007 against the constitution, we asked the court to give an order that will compel them within a period of 18 months to remain in office and work out that discussion that will lead to a new constitution. That's not too much to ask for, because South Africa did it. They accepted that the apartheid constitution had to go, and they called everybody.
Now, relying on them to work out a new constitution.
No, they are not saying so. In that terms of reference, they say how to incorporate whatever.
I'm asking you how you intend to arrive at a new constitution.
How it will arrive at is that the people, those who are trapped here, before going to make a central constitution, because a federation should have a federation of many constitutions. Up to 1966, we had 5 constitutions, because each of the federating units were like countries of their own that were now coming to cooperate, like Germany and France and Portugal doing European Union. That was the kind of constitution Awolowo had to manage Western region. That was the kind of constitution Obara had to manage Eastern region. But some people woke up in 1960s, threw all of those things away, and now locked us into this unitary arrangement. So we're saying that the first step is to ask those who will come, because tomorrow morning they will now begin to announce the names of their friends who are going to meet. We are not going to pay any attention to whatever government does. The conference is already on, and steps are being taken to take a referendum from those who are working their way out of this union, because the union has collapsed. If we do not accept in good time that it has collapsed and go to sit down to discuss how we will revive it, I tell you that under the instruments available to those who are choked here, and 3.5 million people have been killed in eastern Nigeria on this same question. OD have been wiped out, Okerenkoko have been wiped out, Obakere have been wiped out. All kinds of things are going on. Just the other day, 78 students were massacred in their sleep because some people must be in power in Nigeria. They say they will make the country ungovernable, and they are making it ungovernable to date. And we are still thinking that there's a Nigeria. That Nigeria that will include a Sharia belt in which I cannot function in Sokoto or Kano or Meduguri. I will not be part of that Nigeria. I will rather invest all my energy in how to take out my portion. If those who are saying they are conquered us and they are going to keep us by all means for all times insist that we cannot discuss, then we'll do whatever comes within our reach to do to take our portion.
Now, let me ask you, Mr. Nadi,
yes.
if at the end of the day we are having reactions from Afenifere, for instance, we are having reactions from Ohanes and Igbo, we are having reactions from Arewa Consultative Forum,
been with all of them.
Be it speaking, saying that they do not, they will not agree for the name sovereign to be added to whatever conference. Now, let me ask you, would you say that these groups do not represent the blocks which they say they represent?
They do not speak for
and
the people.
If you do not agree with their representation, who are the people that you are talking to at this at this point about
back to 75%? Tambuwa said that all of them politicians constitute only 25%. He said it on the floor of National Assembly the day they resumed last week or so, that they constitute only 25% of the country's population. I'm here to speak on behalf of that unrepresented.
And the Arewa is not speaking for
anybody. No, they all have vested interests. They all have things they share with their people in government. What we're saying is that let us accept that Nigeria was not our making in 1914. Let us accept that the little discussion we had all the way to 1960 got toppled in 1966. Let us then accept that the product of that toppling, which is the current constitution, because from 1966 to date, all the 36 states that were created, who created them? Now they call me Abia State or Imo State or somebody else, Bayelsa State. There is none of the people in those places, like Delta State, cannot, the people of Delta in some areas were agitating for some autonomy. You now create a state and put the capital in Asaba. From that time to date, Delta State had not been the project of Ijo, Urobo, Ishekiri, and all of them.
Mr. Nadi, would you not rather wait? Let's just see this process. No, because you have acknowledged that this is actually an act of statesmanship by Mr. President.
I commend him. I commend him.
At least to have you, to prove you right or wrong. Is it not a bit too early?
I was actually expecting to see your name in that list.
Of course, they know they will not put my name on any list of people who are going to be discussing, who are going to a meeting in which Nigeria is held sacrosanct, in which somebody will write in the terms of reference that the outcome of the conference will be integrated into a constitution, meaning that they want to preserve that constitution by all means. And we are saying we will not touch one alphabet from inside this constitution. So these are the two grounds, these are the two positions that will have to be married through the next few days.
But in the event that this conference is convoked, in the event that the different nationalities meet and do discourse, would you now throw away all of that? Because your view can be seen as extreme. It is either all or nothing.
Do you think there is no halfway? There's no halfway in the matter of reconstruction. If you want to put a 40-story structure on this ground now, you know it will take it. But the first thing that will happen is that bulldozers have to enter here to level it, to be able to put up a new structure. Anything that is built on this foundation of falsehood, and if you let us take it down to our people, In saying that we the people, we're saying that we have submitted by ourselves. So it's a forged signature by which Nigeria is selling 3 million barrels of crude oil every day and sharing the money, $250 million every single day in Abuja, to the exclusion of the owners. If you come to the provisions inside the Constitution, you then begin to see a chapter 2 that provides for all the good things of life, but a clause in section 6C, and shame on the lawyers in Nigeria, including the justices up to the Supreme Court, that will hold this document up and say it's a constitution. Because those who wrote it had taken all of the content of the Treasury as their own by that provision, to say that nothing is for the citizen except as they deem fit. That is the unjust.
Samadi, before we let you go on this segment, like Victor asked, and yes, it's the heart of the matter.
The thing to do is to
allow
the ethnic nationalities
and have this discussion without what you are saying, and this scales through.
If somebody,
what does that
Abata held a conference, but Obasanjo held a conference. What happened to them? Because somebody sat in Abuja, like David Mark is sitting, to tell us that it is how they do it that we have to accept. What we're saying is that they must accept that sovereignty belongs to the people and let them organize themselves and send those who they will truly wish to discuss their future for them in a conference that will end in a referendum.
Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
We have been speaking to Mr. Tony Nnadi, who is the Secretary General of the Lower Niger Congress and the convener Movement for New Nigeria. Thank you once again.
The story have never changed. It's the same thing. All the cosmetic measures being applied on Nigeria to make Nigeria, to get Nigeria going, is not working, because everything that is being done by the senators, by the members of the House, or even executive branch or the judiciary, they are all skirting around the fact that the foundation is faulty. Nigeria's foundation, rooted on 1999 Constitution, is a fraud, and you don't expect this fraud to fix itself. Nigeria needs a surgical operation. That's the only thing that will work.
I suspect that very soon some states will be taken over by these Fulani men called bandits. I suspect that very soon the presidential villa will be handed over to them. This is a plan. Nobody should deceive me. I am more than 60 years. Nobody should deceive me that it's just bandits are just coming here and making this thing. It is a plan to hand over to these Fulani men who are called bandits, so that there will be no election. This federal government, not that it is insensitive, is working towards an agenda that they have planned to Fulanize this country and take over. It's not even about Islam. They are using religion as a shield to Fulanize. And this is not right.
What the governor of Benue State, Autumn, is saying is exactly what had actually taken place in Afghanistan right before our eyes. Afghanistan soldiers, while being armed and equipped by the Americans, were actually committed to the Islamic takeover of Afghanistan. And so, when the D-Day came, they all shifted sides and switched to the Mujahideens, the Islamic fighters. And that's how the entire country got subjected to Islamic takeover. Same thing is cooking and on its way to happening in Nigeria. Those who bombed the train from Kaduna to Abuja are the same terrorists that will take over the Asha Rock. The presidency of Nigeria is sitting on nothing but on a shifting sand. All their collaborations, all their collusion with terrorists will backfire, and that will be the final takedown that is coming up on Nigerians.
The recent urgent alerts by NINAS. Remember the Ruga alert by which we shut down the amendment targeted at so-called autonomy for local government areas. Then the 6-part alert, in which we were looking at all the other game plans and permutations the hidden things the enemy is doing to prevail. The alarm of today, the alert of today will be concerning the invasion and the conquest that is being driven. The caliphate invasion, the caliphate conquest designs. And we take our bearings from the attack on the train, the people abducted, and the demands being made. We saw the videos making the video making the rounds of one of the victims, the managing director of Bank of Agriculture, who is from that part. He's from because there's Nigeria is now one huge battlefield divided into two parts. And it is that Caliphate Sharia part and the rest of Nigeria in the alliance of the Nigerian indigenous nationalities operating together as NINAs. Now, that kidnapped victim, that abducted victim from that train attack, came speaking in a video organized by the terrorists. What we are reading from what was said, because he said that their demand is not about money, and that the government knows what those demands are. And since nobody is willing to talk to us, in the kind of event it is, the president and the commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria should have been the one addressing us even on a daily basis on what they are doing about the situation. But nothing is forthcoming several days after. And so we are reading the situation as best as we can, and it is on account of what we can deduce. We're entitled to that because we are the ones in that danger. We are the ones being threatened by this onslaught, by that terror group. And we're coming to this alert session of today from the perspective of our deductions. What are we seeing? What is our what can we perceive? What is our supposition in all of what we already knew before this new broadcast from their camp of terror? And so that question of making a demand that is known to the federal government, we are sure that people like Gumi, who used to be their state spokesman, whether he's still in that role or not, would know what those demands are. But our president certainly does know. He must know. If he doesn't know, he should tell us he doesn't know. But if they say that the government knows, and 3-4 days after nobody has said anything, we assume then that the government knows what those demands are. In the same vein, we saw Malam El-Rufai, the governor in Kaduna. We heard when he talked about going to 14 different countries to offer money to people who are coming in from across to kill people under his watch. Does that not tell us that Malam El-Rufai must be amongst those who know who these people are, where they are coming from, what their demands are? We allege that he must be one of those who know. And we know how close he was and he is to the ones in Abuja. And if we go back to Dr. Obede Mlafia and what he said about what they gathered from those people in terms of what is happening now, are those now the things happening? Did Mlafia not tell us that one of the governors in the north is the commander of? So in all of that, somebody cannot pretend. People cannot continue to pretend that these things are not were not said or are not happening. Or is it the Pantami that we know his connections with all of that? He's the one in charge of our database, documenting people who have flooded into our space. His own people, the Fulani, documenting them as Nigerians. And we saw the recent attempt at amending the constitution to, liberalize the, indigenization. What you just after 5 years of being in an area, you can just be registered to become indigenous of the place. At a time, INEC will be conducting elections in the local government areas. At a time, the federal government will be, sending money straight to the local government areas. But we suspect that those demands will have to do with land and our sovereignty. Land in the sense that we've been told repeatedly by all of those who should have been managing the crisis, who should have been helping push back the armed forces, their commander-in-chief, President Buhari, the ministers, the defense people, the military people, all of those, the spokesman of the president, they've all told us repeatedly that if we want peace, we must give up our land. And our land in this sense is not one small patch of farmland. Our land here is our sovereignty. They already said that this place belongs to them. We saw the governor in Bauchi on national TV saying that Fulani from all over Africa belong here. And we know what Pantami is doing, how they are documenting them. We saw our president throw our borders open, compromising our sovereignty in the sense that all of those people who poured in to Nigeria at the time, people who already declared, in the conquest march they have been carrying out, there's no doubt that it's an ethnic cleansing operation that is being done. And when you ask, where's the federal government in all of this? Where is the military in all of this? You go back to General T.Y. Danjuma, who told us in March of 2018 that what he sees is a collusion, with this invading force by the government of the day and the military of Nigeria. Let us put the two and two of it all together to see the danger of the fall that emerges, that we are being invaded in a manner that is self-evidently being supervised by the federal government of Nigeria. That is what we see. If anybody has explanations different from what we have, those people should come out now and tell us. Silence is not an option in this matter. Body language does not communicate anything than affirmation of the issues of the charges we are raising. But the people at the receiving end, those who are targeted for this slaughter, must now take responsibility for their own lives. The demand that has been made by the terrorists for the persons they are holding in captivity, and the articulation of that demand by that victim of that train, I will say victim in quote, because we are entitled to read all kinds of things in between. Is he an innocent victim of that situation? Has he become the spokesman of the people to now say the government knows, and he will be saying, yes, he may have been speaking under duress, but what if not? What if there's a scheme? What if there's a collusion at that level? These are the questions we must ask. And we are saying this not to entertain people. We are saying this that we are at war, and the people who are the victims, who are the targets of that enemy that is invading, seem to be distracting themselves with all kinds of things. Some are still talking about the election in 2023. Over which country? The country that is being overrun, the country that people are being slaughtered in this number across the length and breadth by the same invading force. Then we come to why nothing has happened to push back this invasion. We see that our president, who had for long been life grand patron of Mieti Allah, the same Mieti Allah that proudly takes responsibility for the activities of Fulani herdsmen, the fourth most deadly terror group on the face of the earth. And that same commander-in-chief president, who already is their patron, grand patron, life grand patron, will dip hands into the treasury and take 100 billion naira, in our very view, to hand over to that Mieti Allah. Where did that money go, other than to buy finance the operations of the Fulani herdsmen? We're establishing the connections between the people who are doing this terror and the government that is supposed to be, defending us from them or pushing them back from us. Against the backdrop of the collusion alleged by former Chief of Army Staff General T.Y. Danjuma. So our interpretation of the whole situation is that it appears as a script playing. Looking at Afghanistan and hearing what had been said by the people who were looking up to as our government, we saw the spokesman of the president not too long ago, I think, what's his name again, Femi Adesina, who said, look, you either give up your land or you give up your life, advising all of us to please give up our land so that we can have our lives. If there's a demand now that is not money, because they said that their demand now is not money. So we are asking very loudly, what is that thing that is not money being demanded by these terrorists who appear to be enjoying some collusion from the government of Nigeria? And if anybody was thinking that collusion talked about was in 2018, in this very week of April, in the first week of April, 2 times I saw with my eyes on live national TV, first on AIT and then on Arise TV, where a retired captain of the Nigerian Army who had left off from the military intelligence wing was telling Nigerians and the whole world on live TV that from his involvement, from what he knows, that the government of Nigeria, the military of Nigeria, has the capacity to, cordon off this terror and take them out. That the capacity is there, the men are willing and able, but that there's a problem, that their commander-in-chief does not seem to want to solve that problem. That the commander-in-chief, our president, is the reason why the military, because he's also the one who has to, give direction, who is the one that should be leading the fight. So if he's the reason why the military that has the capacity to stop this is not stopping it, the Umar, I think the name of the captain is Umar Babangida or so, on AIT, today is 7th or so, this was 4th and 5th of April in 2022. Live national TV on AIT. Let somebody find out whether there was some captain retired, Umar Babangida, that went on national TV to say from what he knew, from what he was dealing with in terms of offering advice both to the federal government, to the military, to the governors who have to manage the crisis, that there is capacity to solve the problem, and that Nigerians should be asking their commander-in-chief, their president, why that capacity is not being deployed. That the president is the reason why the military is not doing anything. And if you take it, further back to the collusion that was alleged, you could see very clearly that there's corroboration of all the suspicions by people who are now involved, people who can tell that there's something wrong with the whole situation. And if this president, a Fulani man, is presiding over a federal government in which Fulani invaders are turning up, everything that can stop them is in place, but they are not being stopped. And even with the latest incidents in which the airport in Kaduna was struck, and then in 2 days the train was struck, the day after the train, they still came out to that expressway to block it, and then somebody in Kaduna was telling us they were just crossing the road. We're entitled to think aloud the way we're thinking now. But if anybody thinks that people are just going to fold their arms until they are slaughtered to the last, that's not going to happen. Yes, we go on to the next alert because we are in a battle, we are caught in a war. And these broadcasts are battlefield instructions. Those who listen may be able to save themselves and their own people from the damnation, from the carnage coming their way if nothing gets done. And so we come to the question of this 2023 election that everybody is throwing all over the place. The general overseers in the church asking their people to go and get a PVC. Others saying there are millions of them who will vote in one direction, forgetting that the entry point is controlled by the enemy that has a dog in the fight. Now, we continue to dissect the things that are being done, but that which many do not understand. The election 2023 is actually the third plan in the hierarchy of Plan A, Plan B, Plan C being executed simultaneously by the enemy in that fight. And if you want to know who that enemy is, look at this map again. Look at this map very closely. The caliphate that imposed that 1999 constitution, which tie up the rest of the country, the rest of the land, which confiscate the sovereignties of all, which seize the assets of everybody, which seize the right to work those assets, which seize all the guns in the land. That caliphate that imposed that enshackling constitution, that apartheid-like constitution, are the ones trying to take us to election to save the life of that constitution, which the rest of us in their liars have defeated by the constitutional force majeure activation of 16th of December in 2020. We have defeated the 1999 constitution. Everything going on now is that those who were drawing governmental powers and authority, mark the words, powers and authority. And if you want to understand it, you go to section 14.2a to see the relationship between the two. Those who are illicitly drawing powers and authority from the constitution, the fraud of a constitution validated by our signature implanted without reference to us. They are the ones who are trying to save that constitution by going to election that will validate the life of the constitution one more time, that will renew the life of that constitution. The rest of Nigeria, in that alliance of the South and Middle Belt, that want to save themselves from the damnation, from the extermination that is coming upon them, from the conquest that has been executed against them, the ethnic cleansing that has been unleashed against them, are the ones saying they will not go to another election under that constitution, insisting that we must go to transition now to terminate the life of that constitution and to restore the sovereignties of those whose sovereignties have been confiscated by sheer force under the code name Nigeria. The Nigeria we negotiated died in 1966. The Federation of Nigeria is no more, but there's a country still pretending to be Nigeria in place. There's that country in place, but there's no federation. And so the federal government that have been, all the federal governments that have operated since the collapse of the Union Agreement in 1966 have been illicit federal governments. We're not at all talking about the personnel who is president. No, we're talking about the federal government of Nigeria in a situation where the federation had collapsed and we are running a unitary system. And so we come back to what are the things, what is this enemy doing? What are the rest of us doing? Like I said before, there is a plan A, there's a plan B, and there's a plan C, which is where the elections come. This caliphate is already in full ferocious swing in their plan A of invasion and conquest. That's their plan A. That they will come upon everybody having laid claim to the entirety of Nigeria, saying that it belongs to them, that they are born to rule others, and that Fulani from everywhere all belong here. So that in the ethnic cleansing campaign we see, sweeping southwards, they want to conquer the place outside what that constitution permits, outside what they have gotten by way of the constitution they impose. Because if they conquer physically, their hold on the land will not be based on the constitution. They know that constitution has been defeated. Where it is the South and the Middle Belt that do not know. They are still hanging on to that constitution. The people who know have since moved on to Sharia in defiance of that constitution that says there should be no state religion. The people who know have since moved on to building, integrating. They know that the union is at an end. They are busy integrating their part of the country with Niger Republic. That's why the railways that are connecting Niger, that's why the refineries we don't have that are being built there, that's why the railways we don't have that are being built there, that's why the road networks we don't have that are being built there. That part of the country, that caliphate north, is being integrated with the Niger Republic Of course, we know where the Buhari himself told the people that went with him in the cross-border operation at the time. It was GOC, the 3rd Division in Jos, across the border. He told them that his family originally came from the Niger Republic. So we all know, there's no offense by being of Niger origin, or Abacha being from where he is from, or all the other ones in between. Now, the danger we are pointing out now is that the financing for the heavy infrastructure that is being put in place now is coming from loans obtained in the name of Nigeria by this sectional agenda. Billions and billions and billions of foreign loans that have been deployed to integrate the economy of the Caliphate North with Niger Republic. And those monies are being borrowed against the assets of the alliance. Some of those, agreements, loan agreements, especially one with China that's written in Mandarin language, also puts in a cost. I'm sure you will remember the controversy when it arose, that there's a cost to cede sovereignty to China if they do not pay the money. And these are all the things being signed over our heads by people who have their own agenda. They are not doing so on our behalf. They are doing so for themselves and to our own damnation. These are things we need to put on the table so that they know that we know. So that those who are giving them the money will also know that they're just putting their money at risk unnecessarily, because from the time in December of 2020, the force majeure that raised a caveat to the international lending community not to lend any more monies to this disputed project called Nigeria until we sort out the sovereignty dispute that has been raised. Some have listened, they are not offering any loans. Others are not listening, and they are throwing loans to people who may not be on the scene at the time they come for their monies. That's by the way. But back to the main issue of what are the 3 plans that are being pursued? Because our people know about only one, the election of 2023. That is number 3 in the hierarchy of, in the order of importance, in the order of execution. The first is the one that is going on now, raw conquest. Overrun them, become the owner of the place, everybody on their knees, and then other discussions will come. That's plan A. Plan B is one in which the same people that are pretending not to have the capacity to contain the terror that is going on are going to compromise our security further by this kind of thing they're already doing, to the point where they will assume martial powers. We saw when the Attorney General wrote a memo that leaked to his principal that they should suspend the Constitution. They will require more powers than currently available to them in the Constitution of now, so that they can advance their conquest more rapidly. And the way to assume that depth of power is compromise the security situation to crisis, to chaos level, such that they will say, oh, in the face of what has happened with security, we now declare martial law. They can launch a coup. They can do the kind of thing we saw in Afghanistan. They can just suspend their rights and all of that. That's plan B, and that is closer. The way they are going, the kind of carnage we see may come to where they say, oh, on account of this level of insecurity, we now suspend, all the rights, like we saw in 1984, and all of that. So that is their plan B, and they are working around the clock to get to that, so that they can continue their conquest unchallenged by the inhibitions placed by this constitution, as bad as it is. The plan C, which is now again a decoy for driving the plan A and B, is the election of 2023, by which they have occupied the thinkers and political merchants of southern Nigeria and Middle Belt. Oh, whose turn it is. Meanwhile, even being the plan C, their third in the hierarchy of options, they already secured the outcome for themselves. They're in control. The caliphate is in control of the two parties. The caliphate is in control of INEC and the military that will, police that will carry the ballot boxes, and the returning officer that will announce who won, those who will count the vote. They are the ones printing the PVC. They are the ones that will give whoever they give. They know the demographics. If you are 10 million in an area and they give you only 3 polling booths, there's a maximum number you can return from that area where you think you have those numbers. They may also give 50 polling booths to an area that has less than 3 million people. And so they get numbers that will outweigh the ones you got from. So these are all the kind of gerrymandering that have been going on in our electoral processes, which is why the results are always baffling. But we are now laying them bare on the table for those who are pinning their hopes on going to win election. And that is where the men of God in the land who are telling people to go and get their PVC, they are not listening to us now that the constitution by which the winner will govern will render the lives of their flock more unlivable. They are going to continue to be killed. They are going to be more impoverished the day after that election, no matter who wins. But the people who are inviting you to that contest, the APC, they have already abandoned this. The carcass of APC that they've left behind, like they left the carcass of PDP behind in 2015. They've all moved to where they want to go. PDP today, a Fulani candidate in the person of Atiku is likely to emerge in that PDP platform. So they drag you to the point where there's a semblance of election, and the world will think that there's been a contestation, but they're in control of the outcome. And that's why part of what they're doing is to make sure they keep throwing it up as the most urgent thing to do, and our people are jumping, buying form, waving PDP and APC flag, whereas the people they are contending with already settled the outcome of that election by seizing the two political party platforms and seizing control of INEC and the military and police. That's the security services. So whatever anybody is thinking, this broadcast should get to reach all of those who are inviting people to elections. The political merchants, if you know anybody in PDP, from the chairman to the national officers to the governors, all of those who are mobilizing you now, including women leader, church leader, let them see this video, that the people they are coming to compete with already settled the outcome. Their strategic pursuit is to keep that constitution that killed the rest of us and impoverished the rest of us, alive. Whereas we have defeated that constitution by what we have done, and we can actually go to where we decommission it and free our people from the bondage. Take them to referendum in a transition so that they decide whether they want to continue in this union, and if yes, on what terms. That's where we now begin to talk about the degree of autonomy acceptable to them. But they first have to vote whether they want, by referendum, whether they want to remain in union with anybody or not. And then if the majority say they want to remain, then we go to that's when the question of the kind of constitution that will be used to moderate that union will come up. It's not now. And so let it be made clear to all that those those from the south and the middle belt, who in the face of this invasion, happening to us, these killings that are coming upon us, this ethnic cleansing that is already ongoing, are distracting everybody by talking about the election, which is something the outcome has been predetermined. There's nothing you can do about the caliphate has a dog in the fight. They have a candidate in the election. They are the ones who conduct the election. They are the ones who print the PVC. And whoever wins the election, when they do win, will have to swear to defend and uphold that constitution, meaning that we are back to where we are. Meanwhile, there's no slowing down in the conquest they are driving. And they need you to be talking about the election where they are overrunning you, like we have seen. You saw them in Kaduna Airport. You saw them in train station halfway to Abuja. You saw them the day after the train station attack that they blocked the road heading closer to Abuja. We hear that schools in Abuja have asked parents to keep their children at home because the security situation, that's now Abuja. The day they blocked the Lokoja highway, nobody is able to escape from Abuja. Let those who are thinking that it's far away from them listen now. Let those who see this video
make sure it gets to the general overseers of the church and all of those doing party, whether it's APC or PDP or ABGA or Mega Party or Youth Party, all those things are in the plan C of this enemy that is determined to wipe us off and take over our lands.
Nigeria is finished. These are all warning signs. These are all warning signals that is being sent to Nigerians. Unfortunately, what Nigerians does with it is what will determine their future. Act now or it will be too late.
I was on a gig or on a show as a musician, as a recording artist to one of my friend and my brother to Kogi State, Kaba. And we had a nice time. So I said, okay, should we travel by air? But I said, Kogi, if we travel by air, we have to go through Abuja and come by road. So by road from Abuja to Kogi is another few hours. So let's all of us just enjoy the ride. So we took a minibus for about 9 of us. We branched in Akure, everywhere, enjoyed ourselves, musicians, artists. So just 20 minutes to the town of Kaba. We saw like a road. In fact, I think a minute we passed a military checkpoint. So when we saw a military checkpoint, not even a police checkpoint. So when we saw the road, so we were moving, thinking that, look, this place should be safe. Just after like 2, 3, 4 minutes, it was a bit of a bumpy road, but everybody, is the normal road that people travel as, so I said to myself that, should we go? This road looks like, but we saw people passing the road. So we forged ahead and we were going. But I noticed like a Fulani man in front, by the roadside. So I didn't really know what it is exactly. But,
How would you know he was a Fulani man?
Yeah, first of all, I grew up in the north.
Okay.
Yeah, I started my primary school in Jos. No, in Kano, went to Jos. I went to Kaduna. So I'm a bit, familiar with the northern style and stuff like that. And, to crown it, I'm a musician that has traveled. I've traveled all over the country and all over the world. So I knew, I know that they rear their cattle and everything. So I was just going. The more I approached the man, the more I was uncomfortable. And I was looking at my mirror, looking at my back. So when we were almost close to the man, I stopped. The man double-crossed the road with an AK-47.
Wow.
Yep. So I looked at my mirror, my rear mirror, to look at my back. So as I was trying to reverse, 3 other people came from the back. So
were they in a car or still on that bumpy road?
On the bumpy road, they came out from the bush. We're in Kaba already. So as I was trying to go back, I couldn't go back, couldn't go front because I noticed that they were carrying AK-47, cutlasses and machetes and everything. So they smashed, I was the one driving.
Wow.
They smashed my glass, both the screen and everything, with a big cutlass, and they cocked the gun. So at that point, we surrendered, and they marched 9 of us into the bush. 9. I've got 2 ladies, 2 female backups, so we were marched into the bush, and their faces were painted, 4 of them. So what they did was that they just say, you, and the first miracle God gave us was that the ladies were separated from us, and 3 others. So they marched 4 of us into the bush at around about past 4, quarter to 4. So that was how the whole thing started, like a joke. So they destroyed the car, So one of my boys went back to the military checkpoint that I talked about earlier on for help. They couldn't get help.
He was able to escape?
No, they just took 4 of us and left 5 of them.
Oh, they took 4 and left 5?
Yes. Me and 3 other inclusive, they took us, they kidnapped us. So we started trekking. So I was talking to them in Hausa, and you ask me, why do I know that they are Fulanis and Niges? because, in Hausas, you can differentiate some Hausa language from the other one.
Yes.
Like Yoruba and Ijebu. So I know because I lived in the north. So, but they can still speak Hausa, but not like our. So I started begging them, and, they were torturing us. That's even not the problem. So we trekked. Our first trekking was from that junction of that Kaba. We trekked for about, since about past 4, quarter to 4, we trekked till about 1 a.m. non-stop.
Wow.
Non-stop. And one of my backup, which I don't want to mention, his name is a male. As at that time, he is a bit on the big side. He was losing breath, trekking for, So he told me that, Sati, I would like to, let me just end it up here because my tongue is already, it's dried up. I can't manage everything. So they were telling me in Hausa that, look, meaning we will kill him. It doesn't cost us anything, that he's been delaying our movement, that we're supposed to be covering some miles at every point in time, that he's been delaying our movement. So I was begging them, they would smack me the gun on the head, on the hand. I was begging them so my talking drummer had to carry this, my backup singer, because he's lost everything. He said he wants to die. So they told me in Hausa that, okay, what they want to do is that if this guy is going to delay their movement, that they will kill him and sell his body parts.
Are you serious?
Yep. They said they are going to sell his body part, that since he's just disturbing us, that now, in my presence, the people that will come to pick his body parts, they will come, they will sell, so they are not going to lose. So with faith, we didn't even know what we were doing. We were just doing everything with faith that, well, this is the end. Because 4 of them were carrying AK-47. As at that 1 a.m., they took us to a bush. We didn't even know where we are again, but we had trekked from about 4 till about 1 a.m. the next day. So when we got to where they had to, because it's late in the morning, very, very late in the very dark, in the bush, in the thick of the bush. So they lit up sticks for us to have lights and bonfire. They tied us, 4 of us together. So my drummer now was telling me that, boss, you know what? We can overcome these 4 people. We are 4, they are 4. That this gun is not normal gun. The euphoria of the attacks and everything, we didn't even know whether it's a real gun or not. So they were telling me that, boss, let's run. I didn't know what came on me, because naturally I'm not always afraid. But I was just relaxed that, we are 4. If we run, they know this bush. We don't even know where we are. And do you know where we are?
Where?
They took us from Kaba. We're already at the Ondo Bank.
What?
We trekked from Kaba to Ondo Bank, because it was in the morning that we realized that we have trekked from Kogi to Kaba, to Ondo. Because when we woke up in the morning, I spoke to them in Hausa, where are we? They said we're in Ondo, that this is Ondo.
Oh, they were even interacting.
They were interacting. One was 24, one was like 26, one was like 28, one was like 29. And 4 of them, they don't live in the same states. One is staying at Ekiti, one stays in Kaduna, one stays in Kogi, and one stays in Ondo. They don't stay in the same place. Anyway, so as at that point, they tied the 4 of us, and one was in our front with the AK-47, one was in our back, one went into the bush, and one was cooking. I don't know what they were cooking. They were cooking some drugs.
Drugs? Wow.
I haven't seen the drugs. I'm 52 years old. I've played music for almost 37 years, if not more than. I have played with everybody in this country. I haven't seen such a drugs. They were high on drugs. And they were speaking their NIGE language, because I understand a bit of Adausa, Okay. So my drummer was telling me that, boss, let's run. I said, no, let's be calm. What if we run and we couldn't make it? So when we woke up in the morning, very early in the morning, we now saw the gun. Thank God we didn't run. We saw the gun. We discovered that it was real AK-47 that has several cartridges. When I mean cartridges, some of these guns, when they load the cartridge, one can shoot this one shoot like 10. I saw it not because they're telling me. And I said, God, thank God that because if we had run, we are 4. Do you understand? We thought that the gun wasn't, is like so that was how the journey started. So in the morning, they were beating us. As at that time, we already, they did. They said we should start. So they will go through all your phones, and call your contact, ask you, they will give you the phone to call people. One of the things I must say here, and honestly, I'm not afraid to say it, each time somebody ring our phone, they will take the number and they will dial some network to know who the person is.
Are you kidding?
Yep. So that tells us that they are not actually doing it on their own.
They're not illiterate either.
Well, they are not illiterate. They know what they're doing, even though they are not educated, but they understand what they're doing. And this is a cartel. This is a networking thing. They speak to the people in the communication world, in the network, because they were telling me that, Allergy, all this money, they are asking me, because they started from 40 million until about 5 million on the third day. They said that they are not the only one that are going to share the money. The military, the police people, the communication, because each time somebody calls me, they will collect the number and they will speak to somebody in the network to know
where that person is calling from, who the person
is. In fact, when they took the 5 million,
how did you even come up? How did you even come up with the money being in that thing? How did they get it? Was it transferred?
That's another story. They brought it cash to them. They told me that they will know if there's a tracker following the money. It's a serious thing. That's why when I heard about the Kaduna attack, my spirit just went back to what I went through, because I know what the people will be going through now. It's something that is hell. There's nothing to define it than is hell. Now listen, the funniest thing is that we were walking around. We trekked out of the almost 72 hours. We trekked for almost about 50 hours. Because each time you spend like 7-10 hours in a place, they will tell you to move to another location. They have people that is talking to them, monitoring their location. You know what I mean? So it's not just, it's something that is unheard of in this country. Because my 5 band boys that were left went to report to the military checkpoint. My immediate elder brother is a prince, is the king. So he too was already connecting people. If you are, honestly, I'm sorry to say this, I don't have any other country, but if you are kidnapped, you're on your own. It takes God for you to come back. Let me tell you another thing that happened is online. After I was released, because our release was purely a miracle, one of the Oba in Ondo, 3 days after I was released, was killed. The Oba of Ifon.
I saw that.
That's right. He went for a meeting, and on his way back, they shot him dead.
Just like that.
So this thing is not just ordinary. They can't kidnap you without the help of some certain key people, communication, military, when they took the money, they flipped the money, because there's a way they will know whether the money is being tracked.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's in my presence. They even gave me 5,000 allergic. Gashi. Shiga mota da shi, zaka bi nan. I will pass this place and pass this place, and I will escape. I told them that how do they know the roadmap of the bush? They said that they can trek anywhere in Nigeria without getting to the express.
Wow.
Yes, because I experienced it for 3 days. Because they picked us from Kaba. Then we got to Ondo, we got to Auchi Bank, we got to Kogi Bank back. They brought us to Kogi Bank, trekking. Because it's shorter to trek from that end because they know all the roadmap, because they are naturally...
They are bandits. Their job actually is within the forest.
That's right. And you see why each time they are negotiating, they have people that they talk to. That this is the nature of the negotiation, this is everything. So it's not just ordinary. It is sad that the country that I belong to, that I'm serving, I've been playing music for over 3.5 decades in my country. I've had opportunity to stay in abroad with a green card, but I can't. This is where I belong. I feel great being in Nigeria, But guess what? Every of my friends all over the world now, they tell me, say, boss, you want to kill yourself in that country? Let me tell you, I just had a daughter 3 or 4 months before that kidnap. And I said that, is this the last thing? Because it's not something that you can. As I'm talking to you, I'm already feeling traumatized.
I'm even having headache just listening to this.
Do you understand what I'm saying now? The
Story
second day, we were in Ekiti, the bank of Ekiti. They said, are we hungry? You know, another side of the story is that for about 28 hours, we didn't have anything to eat. So, but because we've been trekking, you needed water and fluids. So we don't have option than to, because they know everywhere within those states, 5, 6 states of that area. So we had to drink water that they used to clean their cow. We drank it. I took it. So the second day they said, yeah. And they are used to it because they are on drugs. They are fetish, because while we are walking, I was asking them, that, aren't you guys tired? You know, as a Yoruba boy, there's something we call kanoko. You might not know what it means.
What does that mean?
It means that you can decide to trek from here to Ibadan and the road will be shorter. And they told me that that's what they are. Because this guy, they jazz a lot. I was with them. You know, at times I wish I didn't experience it. But at times I thank God experiencing it and God sparing our lives, because, you know, you don't know the freedom you have sitting down. This is what you want, because we had to be forced to take such water. We were drinking it with happiness, because we lost fluids. We were passing out, basically, you know. So the next day they told us, when it was second day, they said, do we want to eat? What do you want to eat? So somebody went to the market in Ekiti State, because we've left Kogi. You know, Kogi, Ekiti, Ondo, they share boundaries.
Yes.
Ouchie. So I said, where are you going? You know, by the second day, they were talking to me a bit, because I can communicate a bit in Hausa. And yes. They too they are not fluent in Hausa, but you know what I mean? Yes. So they told me that their father owns the land. That's deep. They say their father owns the land, and since they are not getting what belongs to them, this is what they resulted in doing.
I don't understand it.
Okay, because they said Fulani owns Nigeria.
How is that?
You know, whether true or false, because I was just listening, you know, and they said that this place belonged to them from whether 16th or 18th century, and all of a sudden, they are not getting what belongs to them. So they have resorted to kidnapping, adoption, and everything. And they said they only do 3 jobs. They kidnap, they join Boko Haram, and they do rituals. I said, what kind of rituals? Yeah. They said, what kind of rituals? They say, when they kidnap somebody and people can't really come to get them, or fortunately or unfortunately, it resulted into death. So they cut their body part and sell it. That was why they told me the first night that if one of my guys slowing them down, they are going to kill him and cut his body part. And now they will still make money. They are not going to run. They are not going to lose anything. So I wasn't arguing with them, because who dare you to argue? As at that time, we're already in heaven, because we already knew. In fact, we had zeroed our mind that, well, that's the last. Because, in fact, I remember we've said our last prayer more than 30 times.
Are you serious?
It's not something I would want my enemy to experience. So one of them went to the market for almost 5 hours, because they had to trek from the thick forest. So by the time he came back, he brought a gari and a palm oil and mixed it and said we should eat.
What? So they actually do business in the same markets that we go to buy.
They live like normal humans amongst us. The guy went to the market and came back. He went to the market, bought the gari and the palm oil, and he came back to the forest about 5-6 hours later. So when he brought the palm oil, I told my guys, how do you eat? So some of them had to rush the gari. So we were just taking the gari, and they said we should start to trek. Now, every time they want us to trek, they will smack us with the gun, and everything. So we started. They've been prior to now. They've been negotiating. People will call in, and I remember my boss, my pastor, will call in, and he will be praying for them that leave my son. Each time he calls in, after 3 or 4 times that my Oga calls in, I'll be praying that he should not call him, because
are you serious? He's calling to pray.
He's calling to pray. They will beat us after his call. They will beat us mercilessly. Say that man, he is just praying, with faith that, look, leave my children. I have no money. They will beat the hell out of us. That your God that is always calling is praying that I'm kesheku.
Was there any time that the security operative even called, or did anybody reach out to the police, the army?
Well, there are 2 of my adopted mom that I wouldn't want to mention their name. They've made several efforts to the government, and they called. They were able to locate where we are. But what was said was that if they attack where we are, because we are many, they might be able to rescue, but they might lose some of us.
That's what they said.
That's what they said, because one of my auntie, mother, adopted mom, I don't want to mention her name, and I want to thank her especially, and few of the first ladies, they tried. They did all what they could, because they couldn't believe that it's happening to Tosin, that they know. When you hear this thing, is a different thing.
When it happens to someone that is close to you.
And I think few days to that time, I spoke to the first lady, which I wouldn't want to mention her name. And she didn't know. Is it Tosin that they are talking about? And for months, she couldn't even talk to me. She told, is this my own Tosin, And I remember the first lady in Lagos, after I was released, she called me to Marina and said, Tosin, we need to talk about this thing. This is not tidy. We need to find a way to help people that it will happen to. I mean the first lady.
Okay, and after that, so before I even come to, the aftermath, how did they collect the ransom?
Well, when they eventually said, okay, we should look for 5 million from 40 million, that was the last day, which is the 3rd day. So special thanks to friends, colleagues, pastor, everybody, there's nothing I can practically do. So they put the money together, my pastor, everybody that I wouldn't want to just mention them. I appreciate my colleagues. In fact, first of all, the gospel industry was thrown into pandemonium and chaos. I remember Sami Opozo, Nathaniel Bassi, Big Bolaji, BJ Sachs, all of them, they didn't even know. That 3 nights, they don't know where they are. They were just praying. Because, by the grace of God, I'm not just one of the bottle in the industry in that regard. So Nathaniel, everybody was praying. Sam Opozo, I remember when they called Sammy, they told Sammy that they just kidnapped your friend. Sammy had to swear for the guy that called him that, I think you are joking, because Tosin and I spoke 2 days ago. We're on a project. And the pastor called Sammy back and said, Sammy, we are not joking. He said, you guys must be mad. You can't joke with me that they just kidnapped Tosin because we spoke 2-3 days ago. So just for you to know the way it is, everybody was...
Were they speaking in English when they were making these calls? Or you actually called them? Or they made the call?
I know. I reached out to my assistant in church, and God bless his soul. God bless his soul. Afolabi, okay, wonderful guy. He did a great job for that 3 nights, because he was the one interfacing with these kidnappers and reaching out to my friends, family, and everything. He did a wonderful job. It will have been God too. So when we put the money together, they transferred the money. The people I was going to perform for, they had to transfer the money for them. They too, the event was just in a mess. That's story for another day anyway. Because imagine they are preparing for events. So the event was just sorrow, pandemonium, and chaos. People, their blood pressure was skyrocketing. They took some people to hospital. Everything was upside down, and they transferred the money to somebody in Kogi. And if I will bust, to my surprise, they said we had to rent somebody that will carry the money.
Yeah.
Because majority of the people that carry the money, they don't even come back alive. The kidnappers might kill them. So we got somebody, the guy charged us, and they brought the money. So the kidnapper said they only need the number of the person bringing the money. And they will know whether the money is tracked, whether the person is tracked, they will know. And I was chatting with them in Hausa that how would they know? They say I should keep quiet. They say their intelligence is higher than we that went to university.
Obviously, because from what you're just saying.
So when they were bringing the money, they collected the guy's number. They called the guy's number. There's a way they will call the number. There's a way they will speak their language to some network, and so they will be tracking the person bringing the money, knowing how many people they are coming, because they can see all this. They are professionals. So when they brought the money, they instructed the guy where to put the money, where they will meet him. So they collected the money and brought the money to my presence from the guy, and they released the guy. When they realized that the guy
was practically neutral,
the money wasn't tracked, because even if they collect the money and the money is tracked, because there's something that they will use to track the naira, that you know the location. So they discovered that, in fact, we were already begging them, because the people in Kogi that we went to perform for, they said no, they will track the money. I said we were begging them that, look, money, let the money just go. Let the money go, because we are with them. We've been with them for 3 days. We know how intelligent, how sharp, how connected they are. So we begged them that they should never track the money. Let the money go. So eventually, nobody tracked the money. We gave them the money. So they collected the money, checked the money. They flip one like this. I don't know how they track the money. So they flipped the money and said, hey. So they now came to me. They said they are sorry.
They now apologize after receiving the money.
They said it wasn't people like me they wanted on that particular day. That was when I knew that I wasn't set up. But they said that I was just their food for that day, and they had to just make money. They said, okay, you know what, Allergy, got 10,000. They were telling me the route to pass. Unfortunately, as they released me, another kidnapper wanted to kidnap us. I'm talking before God of my creator. That I'm telling you, because when they released me, when I got to the express, my guys were tired. They couldn't, because we have to walk from the bush, maybe another 45 minutes, 1 hour outside. So we were trying to look for a taxi, So we saw another bunch of kidnappers. They are everywhere. They have network everywhere. So I now said to God that, is this in Nigeria? Because I lived in the north.
How did you escape that? How did you know they were kidnappers?
Okay. So when we got out from the bush, we saw other people on the road, same road. And we were afraid because of our experience already. So we were looking for taxi. So the taxi couldn't come. So we were running on the road. We don't want to wait on one spot. As we were running, they were running after us. So a taxi came. And in fact, we were dragging one of my boys when we rushed into the taxi, because the taxi didn't practically stop. So we were now asking the taxi guy that the people running after us, is it there are another set of bandits?
This is not good.
Absolutely. This is
worrisome.
I grew up in Kano, in North, in this Jos, Kano, especially Jos, is like London.
Yes, that was what Jos used to be.
About 47, 48 years ago, I practically grew up in Jos. I went to Baptist Primary School, Jos, Baptist Primary School, Nasarawa, Kano. So this is a different story entirely now.
Now, when you came out, did you have conversations? Did you approach the security arm of government, or you already gave up?
Well, like I said, I'm a prince. My elder brother, a king, was already talking to the king in Kaba, talking to everybody. Then, by the grace of God, my people in Lagos, my excellencies, they were already trying to see what they can do, which they did. To be candid, the only report was that place is dangerous. If they attack the place, because we're many, they need to attack the place wisely. And what if they can't get 4 of us out, and in the process of rescuing us, they lose other people? But you see, they are talked to security agents. But what I can categorically say is that those people are working not by themselves. They are working with the people giving them guns, with the security agent, with the networks. I experienced that. Do you understand? So even if my people are trying to help me, they are getting information from security agents and network.
Of course,
and that's why they change their location every few hours. We change location for about 5-6 times over 3 days, changing location. And we might trek at 7, 8, 10 hours to just go to another place.
If care is not taken, he's going to end up in prison yard. You know, those people that used to come to him, they are eating his money. He says Jagaban of Hausa land. Those who are taking care of goat and cow, they are Jagaban. Who is Jagaban? So you have to rethink and make up his footsteps so that he cannot sleep and die. Because this is how I told Abiola. This is how I told him. I went to Abiola office personally. Baba God has done great thing for you. You have money, you have everything. Why do you want to become the head of state? He said, "My worry. When all these Babalawo are hungry, that's what they are going out about." He gave me 25,000. I said, "Baba me, thank you very much. God will be with you." How does he end? He did not end well. He died. So that's what is going to happen to Tinubu now. If Tinubu doesn't take care, he will die like a goat.
Where do Christians suffer the worst persecution in the world?
Nigeria.
China, Iran, Somalia? International Christian Concern has just unveiled its 2021 report on the top persecutors of the year. ICC lists 3 top persecutors this year: the worst country, worst group of persecutors, and the worst individual persecuting Christians. Well, joining us to discuss this year's list and to explain about what's happening around the world is ICC President Jeff King. Jeff, it's good to talk with you again. So let's get right into it. The worst country persecuting Christians this year. Surprise, it's not North Korea. Which country is it and why?
Well, yeah, Kim Jong-un, North Korea, it's always going to be a top performer, right? But what we looked at was like how many Christians are being killed presently. Is it a problem that's not addressed? We chose Nigeria. It's a surprise for a lot of people. But Gary, in the last 20 years, 100,000 Christians have been killed. 3 million plus Christians have had their lands, farms, homes stolen from them. And the government is part of the problem. So we chose Nigeria.
Well, I know a lot of people say Nigeria, that's just Fulani herdsmen and so forth, but it goes well beyond that. Tell us a little more.
Well, this is the problem. We work in Washington, D.C., and we're working with the government. And so that's the line that comes from the Nigerian government. They want to frame this as a conflict between farmers and herders. It's not a conflict. It's a one-sided war. It's a genocide against Christians. There's Boko Haram also, but the Fulanis have done much more damage. The Fulanis are going in. These are armed groups that go in and shoot up Christian villages and take their land. And what's going on is it's a war that never ends, is never addressed. The Nigerian military never goes after the attackers. There's no arrest, there's no battles, there's nothing. And the reason is that, look, Muslims are in control of the police, the army, and the intel agency. So the whole security apparatus of Nigeria is controlled by the Muslims. And so the fix is in is the phrase. It's like it never gets fixed. It's never addressed. Nothing ever happens.
Okay, Jeff, let's move on then and discuss the worst group persecuting Christians this year. It's not Boko Haram or Al-Shabaab. Who is it? What are they doing?
Well, it's the Taliban. And Gary, look, the Taliban has been, torturing, murdering Christians for years. The problem is that now they are in control of a state, and they have a potent intel security apparatus set up by us, but now they're in control of it. They're calling Christian leaders. We know you. We're watching you. We're going to come get you. They're going door to door. And unfortunately, just this past 2 weeks, they grabbed the first Christian And what happens is they'll torture him. They'll find out who the other Christians are he knows. And then if he won't turn back to Islam, they'll kill him. And there's going to be a whole bunch of that.
Well, a lot to pray about on that. Now, the worst government leader or person persecuting Christians, it's not Canada's Justin Trudeau for shutting down churches and arresting pastors during the COVID pandemic. So which government leader did you list as the top persecutor targeting Christians, and why?
Well, you already nailed it. It's North Korea and it's Kim Jong-un. So either the country or he are going to show up in the top list. But look, the whole North Korean state exists to serve him and to keep him in power and the Kims in power. So we chose him as the individual doing the worst job against Christians, doing the most persecution against Christians. I think people know it, but look, if a Christian is caught with a Bible, if they're a real Christian, the regime will take 3 generations of one family and stick them in prison for life. And these are prison camps that are designed to slowly kill off people.
And of course, we know that you have to worship the leader there. Juche is their faith, and that's worship of their leadership. I know there are many other countries of concern, especially, let's say, India, where attacks against Christians are on the rise. Tell us what's happening there, Jeff.
Well, India is especially disturbing, Gary, because India has a constitution that guarantees religious freedom, and they have a tremendous track record. But what's happened is you have some hyper-nationalists, some fundamentalist Hindus that have gained control. The Prime Minister Modi, is a radical Hindu. His party, the BJP, these are radical Hindus. They believe quite fervently that India is only for Hindus, and in India and Hinduism are fused, and there's no room for anybody else, and they're doing everything they can to slowly strangle Christianity. You won't hear it from his lips. He's a smart politician. Listen to the BJP leaders, listen to his leaders in the party. You'll hear it quite clearly. They're not shy about it.
And Jeff, I know China and Pakistan, those are always places of concern. And you've been to many of these countries. You've met with many persecuted believers around the world. Which country really is driving you to your knees in prayer right now? Maybe what one should we keep our eyes on?
Well, I pray for Nigeria constantly. We do a lot of work with the victims there. The 3 million plus that have already lost everything. Their homes have been stolen. 70 to 100,000 killed. The government is part of the problem because, just like you said, the government says this is just herders and farmers. It's a conflict. It's nothing but, and they are complicit in the attacks on Christians.
Okay, I know that you're hoping this report will put more pressure on these governments to affect change. Jeff King, president of International Christian Concern. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing your time and insights. We appreciate you and the work you're doing.
Love you guys and what you're doing, Gary. Thank you so much.
God bless.
Yeah, Nigeria is holding the country award, at that level for persecution of Christians due to the involvement of government, the coalition of government in protecting the Fulani terrorists who are going across Nigeria, killing, sacking communities. Even government policies is designed to favor them. The government tries to take over, build forest reserves, cattle routes, Ruga, shoreline takeover, all sorts of programs the government have tried to put through in order to spread these terrorists across the country. These are all part of the agenda of the current government to carry out and fulfill the ideas, the imaginations of Ahmadu Bello, to extend the life of their caliphate that died when British took over Nigeria in 1914. So they have no interest other than to pursue this jihad and see it to a conclusive end by killing off indigenous nationalities, especially Christians. They've done it in the far north. All the Christian communities there have been targeted and killed and replaced or chased into IDP camps locally, where they get bombed by Nigerian Air Force, or into foreign countries, neighboring Nigeria, into refugee camps. This is where the international organizations, especially the Christian-leaning organizations, needs to step up their game and expose what is happening in Nigeria, which the Nigerian government consistently lie about. They went to New York during the UN General Assembly in September seeing Nigerians with their posters, patriotic Nigerians protesting against the killing of Christians and the destruction of the country. Nigerian government actually goes into New York, Bronx, to hire homeless people and other foreigners to counter-protest the expose from Nigerians against government collusion in terrorist activities in the country. I don't know what these people are thinking, but we know that there is no way Nigeria can recover except to go through multi-regional binding referendum. That's what will save the day. If not, if this joke continues, we're only delaying the inevitable. And that is a very terrible thing that will happen to Nigeria. To not arrest this situation now through a referendum, call for referendum to, calm nerves and let things, go very well for every section. Failing to do this is only going to cause more problem, more pain of separation. That doesn't. And what if other people to the southeast?